Slim waist. Don't diet while starving. It's really bad. If you diet like that, your health will deteriorate and eventually become the cause of adult diseases such as musculoskeletal problems, high blood pressure, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, and fatty liver. That's why breakfast is really important. In fact, many studies have shown that eating breakfast does not cause blood sugar spikes. It can be seen that it plays a big role in preventing muscle loss and reducing fat. Today, your healthy life is here to protect your health. We always produce videos for your health management with information from Korean health management specialists and researchers in related fields. Are there any people who haven't subscribed yet? Subscribe and like right now. And share it with your loved ones so that we can all live healthy lives. When you diet, the first thing that comes to mind is this problem, but if you diet while starving, it really becomes a problem. In fact, you should never be happy about losing a few kg because when you starve, the main thing that you lose from your body is not fat, but water called muscle. We want to lose fat, which is not pretty fat in our body, and visceral fat secreted from our internal organs. However, when you starve, your body does not open its fat storage and burns fat, but first extracts energy from your muscles. So your muscles are lost first, and if you starve and your water intake is insufficient, you will become dehydrated. So it may seem like you have lost some weight by starving, but if you actually do a body composition test a few weeks later, you will often lose muscle instead of the fat you want. So you should absolutely avoid dieting without eating. Especially these days, skinny fat is rapidly increasing among young and middle-aged women. So many women think that they should not eat when they diet, but if you diet like this, you will inevitably become skinny fat. And this skinny fat is really different from regular obesity. Because muscle mass is lacking and visceral fat increases, health deteriorates and can cause various problems that worsen health after middle age, such as musculoskeletal problems. We suddenly starve ourselves to lose weight before our vacation. But the vacation is over. We come back and start eating again. Then what happens is that our body loses muscle mass, water mass, and when it returns to its previous habits, it eventually accumulates fat. That's why people who starve themselves to diet have no choice but to experience this phenomenon more. The problem here is that the more we experience this phenomenon, the more fat we accumulate and the more muscle we lose. That's why it becomes a shortcut to skinny fat. When we do this really bad diet, our body really saves fat in order to save it, and it gradually saves fat deep inside the body. This is because our body feels a sense of crisis when it has less energy, eats less, and only eats the same food. So the crisis alarm of starvation that has been in operation since our primitive times is triggered. If that happens, we will gradually store this fat in our bodies to use later.
So, if we do this bad diet,
where we don't eat, we will only lose muscle mass and fat will gradually accumulate, and later, this fat will accumulate as visceral obesity, which will eventually cause adult diseases such as high blood pressure, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, and fatty liver. This is the biggest problem. When you are dieting, you really need to pay attention to breakfast. If you have something bad happen at home in the morning and then go to work, you will feel bad and not be able to work all
day, right?
It's the same, depending on how you start your day in the morning, and even if it's not breakfast, how you start your first meal will affect how your blood sugar changes throughout the day and how your body fat changes. If this continues for more than a day or two, our bodies will not be able to diet and will go down the path of ruining our health. What is the problem with breakfast? If we compare it to a calm lake, where insulin and blood sugar are both stable, when we sleep, if we wake up in the morning and eat really crispy white bread and orange juice, it's the same as throwing a big rock. This calm lake creates huge waves. In the morning, this blood sugar cannot help but move more sensitively, because you have to maintain the calm insulin and blood sugar during the night and make the blood sugar curve flat. And now you have to start the morning with that, but if you eat breakfast without that, it will create a very serious blood sugar spike. What is a blood sugar spike? If we eat some refined carbohydrates, our blood sugar will rise, and then our body will immediately release insulin to take the blood sugar and put it into the cells.
So,
When blood sugar rises, it drops due to insulin, and when blood sugar rises again, it drops again. And this process is normal. The problem is that when you eat highly refined carbohydrates, blood sugar rises very rapidly. Then insulin also rapidly releases and drops. Then, when blood sugar drops suddenly, we can feel extremely hungry, dizzy, and have difficulty concentrating. When blood sugar drops, previously normal blood sugar may also drop further. So this is called reactive hypoglycemia, and it doesn't actually have the same level of hypoglycemia as a diabetic, but it causes hypoglycemia symptoms. Your hands shake, you feel dizzy, and you feel hungry. That's why your diet in the morning is so important. In fact, many studies have shown that people who maintain their blood sugar well in the morning maintain their blood sugar well at lunch and dinner. However, people who have high blood sugar spikes in the morning have a mess that day.
if
You think about it, they ate really sweet cereal and milk in the morning. Then even normal people would be surprised, but their blood sugar spikes up to 200 or more. If it's 200, they're diabetic. Diabetics go up like that, but normal people go up like that too.
since we can't find out about that.
In health checkups, we just think of it as normal. So, these things can be the main reasons for eating late at night before going to bed. That's why blood sugar in the morning is so important. Eating a meal that doesn't spike your blood sugar in the morning is a good lifestyle habit that protects your health and helps you diet well. You should definitely avoid refined carbohydrates in the morning. Refined carbohydrates are things like bread, rice cakes, noodles, high fructose corn syrup, and cookies. If you eat refined carbohydrates in the morning, they will cause a huge blood sugar spike, so the best meal for breakfast is protein and vegetables. That's why it's most important to have this kind of diet. I also had a protein meal this morning, and there are many studies that say that if you eat protein in the morning, your blood sugar will be moderated until lunch and dinner, and your diet will go well. So it's very important to have a protein meal in the morning. The best advantage of eating protein in the morning is that it doesn't cause a blood sugar spike. Protein actually raises your blood sugar a little, but not as much as refined carbohydrates. So since protein doesn't raise your blood sugar a lot, it doesn't stimulate insulin secretion much.
So the
First thing is that fat accumulation is not that much. The second is satiety. Protein gives a great feeling of satiety. Even if you eat breakfast to the point where you're very full, your blood sugar level will not rise, and it can be a good diet meal. Then, you can eat less for lunch and dinner. Another thing is that muscle is a component, so I emphasize protein intake to those who are thin and obese. Consuming protein in the morning can play a big role in preventing muscle loss, increasing muscle, and reducing fat. The protein I recommend for breakfast is first legumes. There are many different types of legumes and many different cooking methods. The first is soybeans. So if you cook the legumes well and eat them, it can be a very good meal. Legumes are low in calories, have a low glycemic index, and are resistant starches. They don't raise blood sugar levels much. Instead, they taste good and have a high protein content, so they can be a very good breakfast. So the first thing is to cook the legumes well and eat them. The second thing I recommend is unsweetened soy milk. Unsweetened soy milk is something I am quite against liquid diets, but unsweetened soy milk is
good to drink in the morning.
Unsweetened soy milk does have a little bit of sugar, but it also slowly raises blood sugar levels and contains a lot of protein, so it is a good meal that you can eat quickly in the morning with vegetable protein. The third is tofu. Tofu is made from the same soybeans, but it is easy to store and can be cooked in many different ways. It is also known that eating tofu helps increase protein absorption more than eating regular soybeans. If it suits your taste, I also recommend natto a lot. Some people don't like natto because it doesn't smell good, doesn't taste good, and doesn't have a good texture, but you can eat natto with live lactic acid bacteria. And because we can get various proteins from soybeans, and it is a good breakfast, I really recommend soy milk as vegetable protein in the morning. The fourth thing I recommend is eggs. Eggs are, needless to say, a complete food. Eggs contain a lot of protein, really good protein, various vitamins, and minerals. The only thing that eggs don't have is vitamin C fiber, and they say that they have everything else. And eggs are surprisingly easy to digest. Eggs are good if you boil them the day before or boil them in the morning, and there are many dishes that you can make with eggs. So, as I said earlier, since they don't have vitamin C fiber, if you mix eggs and vegetables well and make a dish, it can be a very good breakfast. There has been a lot of controversy about eggs. Eggs have been living with the bad reputation of being mixed with saturated fat and raising cholesterol for a long time, but that bad reputation has been largely cleared up these days. There is definitely cholesterol in eggs. But surprisingly, eggs also have ingredients that lower cholesterol. So you shouldn't avoid eggs outright. Of course, the yellow part of the egg has more cholesterol than the white part. However, since the yolk has more nutrients, I don't think you should avoid it outright. Among the 5 dairy products, this is a recommended breakfast. The first is Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is much more concentrated than regular yogurt, and the milk protein is very concentrated in it. And various nutrients that can be obtained from milk are very concentrated. And another advantage is that many people who have stomachaches or diarrhea after drinking milk can feel better after eating Greek yogurt, so it would be good for these people to use it. The second thing I recommend is natural cheese. Cheese can also be a very good breakfast. Cheese is easy to store. Since the distribution period is long, if you put it in the refrigerator and eat something like stick cheese or string cheese in the morning, it can be a very good breakfast. And cheese contains plenty of milk protein and various nutrients. It has almost no carbohydrates, so it is very good to eat cheese for breakfast. Since lactose is produced in the process of making dairy products, there is no dairy product that has 0 carbohydrates. So when choosing a dairy product, when choosing Greek yogurt, it is better to choose a thick Greek yogurt, not a thin Greek yogurt with very little sugar and lumpy. When choosing cheese, it is better to choose natural cheese and one with very little sugar. Modern people have really busy mornings. We often think that it would be nice to have something easy to just slurp down and go. However, in reality, these easy-to-swallow foods are called liquid foods, and liquid foods are really bad. You really need to avoid liquid foods, and the reason is that easy-to-swallow foods are easily digested in the stomach and quickly raise blood sugar levels. That is why blood sugar spikes are so severe. The same goes for soups. Most foods that you can slurp down in the morning are considered problematic, and if I were to recommend some liquid foods that you can slurp down in the morning, things like unsweetened soy milk and unsweetened almond breeze would be good, but most foods that we find easy to swallow should really be avoided in the morning. The worst thing is cereal. It's really rare to find a well-made cereal, and most cereals are just lumps of carbohydrates. If you mix this cereal with milk and some sweet liquid and slurp down quickly, it can cause a huge spike in blood sugar, so please be careful. If today's video was helpful, please subscribe, like, and set up notifications. Please share it with your precious family and friends. I will always pray for your health and happiness. This was your Healthy Lift. I will come back with advice from another Korean healthcare expert in the next video. Have a happy day today. Thank you.